Going around in a circle. Hi everybody, welcome to Facebook Live at PlantPure. We are switching everything up today. We're doing a Saturday morning Facebook Live recipe, and we'll try to do these most Saturday mornings. We were doing them on Thursday nights at 6:30, but that was a little bit hectic, so this is a nicer time. We had to switch the kitchen around because it's really sunny and beautiful here in North Carolina. So if you see my window, you won't be able to see me. So today we're going to look at the refrigerator. We're making sweet potato pudding pie. And I had to switch everything around at the last minute, so let's hope I have everything in front of me. Do we have people on now, Nelson?
Yeah, few.
So if you have a fresh sweet potato, that's always the best thing. But you can also buy frozen sweet potatoes now. They're really easy to access. What I do in my house is oftentimes I just take 3 or 4 sweet potatoes and mash them up for the week, and we have them for lunch. We use them in bowls, we use them in soups. So the first thing with this recipe is the crust, and I cheated and I went ahead and I made the crust ahead of time. And all it is 1 cup of oats, 1 cup of dates, 1 cup of walnuts, about 1/2 cup of coconut, some vanilla, and a pinch of salt. So I did this up last night because we made a pie last night, and we have a pod meeting, so this is going to our pod meeting this morning. Perfect timing. And then you just put it in a springform pan. I love to use springform pans because they pop right out, nothing sticks to them, and this isn't really going to stick to the bottom, so we don't need any parchment paper today. This might be a little bit drier because it sat in the refrigerator overnight, but really press it down in there, and your walnuts, the oil from your walnuts and the stickiness from the dates are what's going to hold this together really nicely. You can add any kind of seasoning or spice that you want to this. You can add pumpkin pie spice, you can add cinnamon, cloves, really anything you want. And you can add vanilla, almond extract, whatever works for you. So that's all set, ready to go. And then the next thing we're going to do is get out a blender, because this recipe really works. You really need a blender. You can use a food processor, but it won't be quite as smooth, and you'll have a little bit more of a lumpy consistency. So if you want a smooth pudding pie, I would recommend you use a blender. So it starts out with dates, and I cut this recipe in half, but if you were using the full recipe, you would use a cup of dates, but I'm only using 1/2 cup, and I've soaked them. Dates are really hard, so I wanted to make sure I soaked them all morning. They've been soaking in water for about, I don't know, a couple of hours. So they're really, really soft, and they're easier on your blades. So we'll go ahead and put that right in the Vitamix. And then I'm gonna add about, milk-wise, I'm gonna stick my glasses on, about 1/3 cup of milk. And at this point, you can blend it. That'll help to blend it really well without your potatoes in there. So I might go with that first. And that just kind of chops them up a little bit so that it's not so hard on your blades when you put your potatoes in there. This recipe has no added sugar in it because your dates are going to make it sweet, and your sweet potatoes are going to really add to that sweetness. So this calls for, the original recipe calls for 4 cups of sweet potatoes, but remember, I'm splitting it in half because I made half the pie last night. So this is about a couple cups of mashed sweet potatoes. Stick that in there. And then cocoa powder. Calls for 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. This is 1/4 cup because I'm splitting it in half. You can find the recipe in the link. I think I put the recipe in the link for this Facebook Live. And then we'll put a little bit of vanilla in there. And a pinch of salt. Pinch of salt will help the flavors just to kind of pop. And I'm going to put the blender on. And while I'm blending this is going to be kind of noisy, I'm going to go ahead and melt the chocolate chips, because this is the only added sugar in the recipe, and you need about 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. For this recipe, I'm only using 1/4 because I cut it in half. I'm going to put it in the microwave and melt the chocolate chips while this is blending.
Can you use the sweet potatoes unpeeled?
You can, because it'll blend. You won't even notice it. So you can definitely use the sweet potatoes unpeeled. In fact, I think I may have done that last night. So I'm going to turn this on, and then I'm going to put these in the microwave. So Nelson, you can go down in and show them that's looking right.
Chocolate chips.
Okay, you could eliminate the chocolate chips, but here's the problem with that. It's not going to set up. The chocolate chips, when they're melted, are going to kind of be incorporated into the pudding, and then when you go to put the pudding in the refrigerator, the chocolate chips will help it set and get firm. But if you don't, if you don't mind having a softer pie, you can leave the chocolate chips out because it tastes perfect without it. You don't have to do that. I more or less did that so it would set up nicely. Nelson, come in here and show them this is what it looks like. I'm going to keep on blending it when I get the chocolate chips in there, but if you used a food processor, it would probably be a little bit lumpier. And I can tell you I ate this right out of the blender yesterday. It was delicious. I think those chocolate chips are probably close to being done. I put mine in the microwave for about a minute. You want to make sure they're all melted before you stick them in there. We have a pod meeting today, so for pod members who are watching, this is what we're having. This is my contribution. We do potlucks every month at our pod meeting, and it's like a smorgasbord of food. It's really awesome. And if you want to start a pod, you want to know more about a pod, go to plantpurecommunities.org. And there's a lot of information there. It's a great way to meet people, get together every month and share food. We have gardeners come, we have speakers come. Sometimes we show films. It's just really a lot of fun. And I know Nelson loves it because there's always great food there. So I'm going to put this back in here. You want to get that vortex going so that you can really get that pudding down in the blades and you can see how smooth it is. And if you don't want to make a crust and you just want to use the pudding itself, you could make a parfait. You could put it in a really pretty parfait glass and layer it with granola or oats or whatever. I've eaten this for breakfast. My daughter loves it for breakfast. Any questions, Nelson?
No.
So again, we're making sweet potato pudding pie, and I'm putting it on top of the crust that I made earlier, and I'll just leave the rest of that in there because we'll eat that later. And then just kind of form it around. You can decorate it. You can put, I put cacao nibs on it, berries, anything you want. Make it look nice. Then I would stick it in the refrigerator or the freezer for about a couple of hours in the refrigerator, and it should set up really nicely. But again, somebody asked, do I need to use chocolate chips? You could leave the chocolate chips out, but it's not gonna set. It's gonna be a little bit softer, but it's still gonna taste awesome. So last night I made the other half to this pie, and I put it in the other. I have two really small springform pans. And as you can see, Nelson and I overate last night. That was the two of us. There was a Carolina Duke ball game. Unfortunately, Carolina lost, and we got carried away with the pudding pie. But you know, it's just sweet potatoes, so I think it's fine. And I'll cut it so you can see how beautifully it.
So Mike wants to know, are you going to do this every Saturday now?
I'm going to try to do it most Saturdays. You know, we take breaks every now and then if we're traveling, but Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock, Facebook Live. We won't do Thursday nights anymore. All right, so watch this because this is so beautiful. You see? And I just have to test it one more time in front of all of you because it's that good. That could be breakfast. It's just sweet potatoes. So thank you for joining us. We'll try to come on most Saturdays. My daughter will be posting whether or not we're on for that Saturday. You should know by Wednesday or Thursday if we're going to do a Facebook Live. I will come in and answer questions later if you have any questions that I didn't get to today. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you back here on another Saturday.